was dripping, my legs trembling, and I couldn't even stand properly afterward. The way it all started was never supposed to turn out the way it did, and if someone had warned me, maybe I wouldn't be lying there that night, soaked in regret and something far more physical, unable to move my legs, trembling as though my soul had been torn in half, breath caught between soft moans and silent cries. Wishing love didn't feel like both a dream and a punishment at the same time. He wasn't supposed to be anything more than a temporary distraction, a fling I could forget the next morning, but he came into my world like a firestorm, burning, brutal, and beautiful, making me believe again after heartbreak had ruined me once. His voice was deep and smooth, like a dangerous lullaby, and every word he whispered into my ear made my heart flutter and body react in ways I hadn't felt in a long time. The way he looked at me, like I was something he had waited for his entire life, made it impossible to resist falling, despite knowing very little about what he was hiding behind those dark eyes and half-smiles. We started with slow, innocent kisses that quickly turned into something heated, messy, and uncontrollable. His lips traveling across my neck with possessive urgency, while his hands explored my skin like he was learning a language only I could teach. The more I gave in, the more he took, slowly stripping away my hesitation, my fears, my loyalty to a love that had already betrayed me. Because, yes, I was already committed, to someone who had promised forever but gave himself to someone else when I needed him the most. That pain, that betrayal was still fresh, but somehow this man's touch dulled it, made me forget what it felt like to cry over someone who didn't deserve a single tear. But I didn't know then what I know now. That this was not just passion, not just a rebound, but something dangerously consuming that would leave my body broken and my heart even more shattered. That first night, he didn't wait for permission like others did. He read my silence, my breaths, my need, and moved against me with such raw hunger that it made me gasp, clutching onto sheets like they were the only anchor left in a storm of heat and need. His kisses were hot and demanding, trailing down my body like they were searching for my weakest points, and when he finally entered me, it wasn't gentle. It was punishing, deep, and impossibly thick, making my eyes roll back as pain and pleasure mixed into something I couldn't control. I whimpered, my legs wrapping around him, trying to adjust, but it felt like he was tearing me open, yet I didn't ask him to stop. I couldn't. I was too lost in the way he groaned into my neck, whispered filthy things about how tight I was, how I'd never be the same after him, and how he was going to ruin me for anyone else. And he did. That night wasn't just sex. It was a war between my emotions and my body, and every thrust left bruises I didn't see until the morning, when I tried to stand and my legs buckled under me, weak and sore, as if I had run for miles through fire. I cried in the shower, not out of regret, but confusion. Because even after the physical pain, even after the soreness and the way I was limping, I still wanted more. But he disappeared after that night. No texts, no calls, no goodbye. Just silence. And in that silence, the ache in my body turned into something emotional, something that wrapped around my heart like chains. I spent 3 days unable to walk properly, heat pulsing through my hips, thighs trembling, soaked in memories of the way he made me scream, how he praised every moan like a trophy, and how he made me beg without saying a word. I ended up in the hospital when the pain refused to go away, forced to lie to the doctors about how it happened, ashamed of how much I had allowed, how deeply I had let someone in, literally and emotionally, without knowing who he really was. Lying on that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling with sore legs and a soul heavier than ever, I realized something wasn't right. Not just with my body, but with the entire story. Because something in the way he vanished didn't sit right, and when I recovered enough to go back to the places we had been, to look for him, to demand closure or maybe just another night of punishment disguised as pleasure, I found something that made my stomach drop. He wasn't who I thought he was. He wasn't single. He wasn't innocent. In fact, he was closer to my life than I could ever imagine. And when I found out who he really was, what he meant to the person I once loved, I felt the final crack in my chest, the one that took everything left and destroyed it in a quiet scream I never let anyone hear. But that's not where it ends, because this story still has a twist, and the real pain, the real betrayal, was still waiting just around the corner. I didn't know what hurt more, The pain in my body that refused to fade, or the discovery that the man who took me that night with such aggressive passion was someone I should have never touched. Someone whose face was now forever carved into my memory, alongside the realization that he was connected, intimately, to the very person who had destroyed my trust before. He wasn't just a stranger who came into my life like a fire. He was the best friend of the man who had cheated on me, the one I once called home, the one who had promised forever while giving pieces of himself to someone else behind my back. The night that had left me trembling, dripping, sore and shattered was not an accident. It was a setup, a cruel act of revenge carefully masked in seduction, and when I found out the truth, it felt like the bed I had once moaned in was now a coffin of humiliation. I confronted him, not with tears, but with silent fury, showing up where I knew he'd be, looking into those same eyes that once made me weak and now only made me cold. His smirk when he saw me was not the smirk of someone who missed me. It was the smirk of a man who had won, who had taken something from me, and he didn't even need to say a word before the rage inside me spilled out like fire through my veins. He admitted it, not with guilt but with pride, saying he was only supposed to hurt me emotionally, to mess with my head, but then my moans became his obsession, the way I gripped his body, the way I begged him not to stop, the way I cried from pain and still asked for more. He couldn't stop himself, and now I was all he thought about. His confession twisted something inside me, because part of me hated him, and yet part of me still ached for the way he touched me, the way he filled me so deep I couldn't breathe, how my body still reacted just by hearing his voice. But I wasn't going to let desire control me again, not this time, so I walked away, limping slightly, pain still shadowing my thighs, but holding my head high, heart hardened by betrayal. I tried to move on, tried to forget the way his breath felt against my skin, but he didn't let me. He started showing up, outside my house, at my job, slipping notes into places I thought were safe, telling me he needed one more night, not to hurt me but to explain, to show me that what started as a lie had turned into something real. I resisted at first, remembering how I ended up in the hospital, how I was too bruised to walk without holding onto walls, but I also remembered the way he looked at me, not like a mistake but like a need. Eventually I gave in. Not because I forgave him, but because my body remembered him more than it remembered anyone else. The second night was different. It was even rougher, hotter, like he was trying to leave his mark again, but this time with desperation. He spoke the dirtiest things into my ears, claimed he dreamed of ruining me every night, and every thrust was harder than the last, so deep I screamed his name even when I didn't want to. He made me look into his eyes as he filled me, his hands holding my wrists above my head, his lips brushing mine as he whispered that I was his now, that I belonged to him, and no one else would ever satisfy me the way he could. And it was true. My body betrayed me every time, clenching around him, shaking under him, crying out for more even when I knew it would end with me broken. When he finally let go inside me, I felt him deep, heat flooding through me, and I collapsed beneath him, legs trembling again, body soaked with sweat and fluids, unable to move without his help. But as we lay there, tangled in sheets and shame, he confessed something I wasn't ready for, something that shattered everything left. He hadn't just come to me for revenge. He had recorded that first night. Every moan, every scream, every moment of weakness. It was all caught on camera. Not to expose me, he claimed, but to remind himself that he had won, that he had taken something from me no one else ever would. I froze, heart pounding so loudly I thought it would break through my ribs, tears forming instantly as the horror of what he said sank in. I demanded he delete it, screamed at him, hit him with every ounce of strength I had left, but he didn't fight back. He just said he couldn't because watching me like that made him feel alive. That was the moment I broke. Not from the sex, not from the betrayal, but from the realization that I had been nothing but a trophy, a game, a plaything for someone else's twisted satisfaction. I left, bleeding emotionally, numb physically, and locked myself away for days, crying into pillows that still smelled like him, hating myself for enjoying what should have felt like assault. I wanted revenge, I wanted closure, but most of all I wanted my power back. So I did what I never thought I could, I turned the game around. I exposed the video myself. Not publicly, but to the one person who mattered most to him. His wife. Yes, the man who had destroyed me was married, and I hadn't known it. When she saw it, her face went pale, and instead of anger at me, she thanked me for showing her who he really was. That same night, I watched his life fall apart, from behind the scenes, quiet, hidden but victorious. He lost everything. His wife, his home, even his job once the scandal surfaced through whispers. And me. I walked away, slowly, still aching, but no longer a victim. I reclaimed my body, my soul, my strength. And now when I remember that night, the one that left me trembling, dripping, unable to walk, I remember the pain, yes, but I also remember the moment I rose from it, stronger than ever, with scars not of shame but survival. That was the end of the story. The end of love, betrayal, and twisted pleasure. But the beginning of me. Whole. Powerful. Unbroken.